Hello, I hope you all are doing so well today. I am going to be going over my annual TBR, which is I'm going to try to do 25 books about I think it's 8 anticipated releases, some from my physical TBR and then some that I don't have but are continuations from my TBR. 2 of them aren't, 3 of them aren't, but one is one that I need to buy to continue a series I've already started that I want to read this year. Before I do that, I want to go over the 24 books I wanted to read last year and which ones I read. And so I'm hoping I can do better this year and actually try to stick more to this. So to begin, I had a series versus standalones for series I wanted to at least attempt to start and try to finish if I could, which none of that happened. So, and then I had some standalones. So to begin with the series, The Infernal Devices, which is Clockwork Angel, Prince and Princess, which I did start. I did start Clockwork Angel. Did not finish the other 2. Then The Shepherd King, which is I believe One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I did not start that. Outlander, Little Women, None Shall Sleep, The Secret Shanghai series, all of those I have not started. Market of Monsters, which I did read the first book in this because I've been reading it on and off for years, so I finally finished that. There's 2 books in that series I need to read and I will eventually get to them. Realmbreaker did not read because Lord of the Rings inspired and I want to read Lord of the Rings first. Then Fear the Flames, I read the indie version. I want to read the traditionally published version before reading Wrath of the Dragons, which I believe is coming out sometime this summer. Then Getting in the Ninth, I have not read. Lakefront Billionaires, I read both of the books in that series. The Raven Cycle, I did not. A Wrinkle in Time, I read the first 2 books in that quintet, and then I read the first book out of the quintet for Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I read one standalone and I finished it, but I finished it in 2025 because I started it in 2024, but it took me a while to get through because I wanted to absorb everything in the book, and that is Babel. And then the other books I did not read are All the Light We Cannot See, The Night Circus, Salt to the Sea, Out of the Easy, A Thousand Heartbeats, Blonde, Anna Maria and the Fox, and Half Sick of Shadows. Some of these books are carrying over into my 2025 TBR because they're still on my physical TBR and I really want to read them. So to begin with my anticipated releases for my 2025 TBR, the first, I think these are in publication order, I'm not fully sure. But the first one is Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. I really want to read this. This is coming out at the end of this month, and I am so excited to read what's going to happen, especially with the cliffhanger that was left off in Iron Flame. I know this series has had a lot of popular reviews and positive reviews and a lot of negative reviews, and I feel very weird on where I stand with them, but I'm still going to read them and I still enjoy them. I don't know if there's a certain reason why people don't enjoy them. Other than just being frustrated of how the plot has moved. Enjoyed it. So, especially knowing that it is going to be a 5-book series, sometimes things have to happen that are quite annoying, but I'm excited nonetheless to read Onyx Storm. Next is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I believe this comes out in March. This follows the 50th Hunger Games, the second quarter quell, and this follows Hamish's games, and I believe he is confirmed to be the protagonist for this story, and so I am so much ready to read this, especially since Miss Collins only writes when she has something she wants to portray to the public about something. I have not read her, is it Gregory the Overlander series? I have not read that, but I have read everything with the Hunger Games, so I am very excited to see what this next installment will be. Then I have One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This comes out I think in May, and it follows Charlie, if I remember right, which Percy, is it Percy and Sam? In Every Summer After, it's Sam's brother. So I loved him in the book and I really did want to see more of him in Every Summer After, so I'm very much anticipating this, especially because I think my favorite romance last year that I read, Every Summer Will Be Different, is maybe my number 1 that I read by Carly Fortune last year. I just loved everything about that book, and so I'm very much anticipating this. Then Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. This is the 4th and final book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. Can't remember, I think this comes out in May. And so I'm so excited to read this one. I honestly don't oh no, I do remember who this is about. I think it's about a ranch hand and his, I don't know if it's his long-term crush. I don't know if they were ever together, but that is what that book is about, and so I'm very excited. At least I think he's the ranch hand. That's what I would consider him. At least that's what I remember. So if that's wrong, please don't cyberbully me, I guess. I don't know. The next is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. This is a nonfiction book about tuberculosis. And so I have not read a John Green book in a really long time. I really do want to get my hands on, I can't remember his last book, but I have seen it in the bookstore a lot lately. And so I do want to read that one, and then also Turtles All the Way Down, because I got out of my John Green phase and I never picked up his books. But I'm really excited to read this one, and I want to go back and read ones I've missed. Next is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Don't know when this is coming out. Don't even know what series this is a part of. I binge read that trilogy, at least what is standing as a trilogy currently, in 3 days. Like, I read one book per day. I was so obsessed with it. I stayed up late. I listened to the audiobook. I got my hours in reading those books. So I am so excited to read her next one. I want to go back and read her other works, but that's not my main goal this year. My main goal is to focus on my physical TBR besides some of these anticipated releases. So, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I read all of her books that I have not read last year, and I loved them all, and so I'm really excited to continue reading her romances. I really enjoy them, and I know a lot of people like have a lot of discourse around her newest book saying that they don't necessarily feel like her writing, but I feel like it's very transparent of like everything that goes through all the books. It's all her. A lot of the plot devices she uses, even like minor details about characters, she kind of recycles. Kind of like most romance authors, and Ali Hazelwood does it. And so I know that a lot of people like reading her books over time because like they don't seem so repetitive. But I like both of their books. So I'm really excited though to read Emily Henry's newest one, especially because I think I've heard that like there's some inspiration from Folklore by Taylor Swift, if I remember right, so I'm excited to read that. Then Not Quite Dead Yet is Holly Jackson's adult debut. I'm very excited to read this one. I have not read Five Survive, but I've read the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy, the novella that went with that, and then what's the other one? The Reappearance of Rachel Price. I read all of those and I really enjoyed them. I need to get Five Survive and then Not Quite Dead Yet, but I'm probably gonna read Not Quite Dead Yet first. I'm kind of saving Five Survive for when I'm really in a thriller mood. And then last anticipated release, well, I think there's more, but these are the only ones I'm putting on my list for like 25 I want to make sure I read, is Calabasas by R.F. Kuang. I think this comes out in August, if I remember right, and I just saw that she had like her arcs, I think, come in, and I wish I could have an arc so bad of Calabasas. I would cry reading this. And then I have my physical TBR, which I think we're gonna save for last, but other books I'm really anticipating that have been out for a while that I want to buy and read is Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess. I have Clockwork Princess like the only book on here, but I do want to read both of them, buy both of them, read them back to back, and finish The Infernal Devices and start, I think, is it Dark Artifices after that? I don't really remember what's after, but I really want to read those. There's that, then The Princess Bride, which I saw, I think this came out in like the 80s, and I know a lot of people know what this is, but I've been waiting to buy the book because I'm trying to get down my physical TBR, and I have like limitations of when I can buy books set on myself, which it's like every book I read or every book I buy, I have to read 3 books before I buy another one, and when I buy a new one, I have to read it like in that time. And I've been waiting to buy The Princess Bride, and it's been 40 years and almost everyone knows what this book is about and what this movie's about. And I was on TikTok and I saw this clip of the movie to the epic musical like I Will Fall in Love with You Again, the final song. There was an edit to it and I got spoiled. So I'm making it my goal this year to read it before I see any other spoilers, because I'm just like hungry and thirsty to read this book, you know, like I'm just craving this book in my hands and to absorb the words with my eyeballs. So that's where I'm at with that. Building off of Epic the Musical, I want to read the Iliad and the Odyssey, which I've already read these. I read them in middle school because I believe we had to read them, like it was required, but I also read them because I wanted to. I think we had to read one and I read the other. And my physical TBR I have right here, so I'm just gonna go over that. So my first book is The Last Man by Mary Shelley. I got this in summer last year, and this is, I'm pretty sure, kind of like a climate type science fiction book that is about our century, 21st century, and like being the last man on earth, I'm pretty sure. And so I think this is the first type of like last man on earth type novel, at least I think that's what it's marketed as, or described as, I should say. I don't really think this is marketed anymore, but I've never finished Frankenstein, but I started it and I loved it, and I know what Frankenstein's about, and so I really want to read The Last Man and get into more like classic science fiction. And then next is Little Women by Lucy May Alcott. Everyone really knows what this is about. I don't really think I need to describe it. It's more so, it's just a coming of age. I think it's after the Civil War, if I remember right, and it's going on, it's about the March sisters, and I don't know if it's a coming of age story. That's kind of how I would feel like it's described. I haven't read it, so I don't really know. Then next is The Bridge Kingdom. I don't know much about this, and I'm going to try to keep it that way. I really like to go into books blind as much as possible, and so this is one of them that I really want to go in blind. Then House of Many Ways by Diana Wynne Jones. Third and final book in the Howl's Moving Castle trilogy, and they don't all follow Howl and Sophie. They appear in Castle in the Air, which is the second book, and this one, but Howl's Moving Castle is obviously like their book. But they show up and they are kind of like little witty side characters. You kind of get to see their relationship develop in the books, and it's really wonderful. These are middle grade and just so lovely to read, honestly. I really enjoy Miss Jones's writing, and I really want to get into some of her other work because I just really enjoy it, and I think it's a great time. I have Throne of Glass here by Sarah J. Maas. That's what I put on my anticipated TBR, but I'm probably going to start with The Assassin's Blade first. So I know there's a lot of discourse about what you start first, but that's what I want to do, and so I'm doing it. I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This has been on my TBR since, my physical TBR since like 2021 at least. And I have been wanting to read this for years, and it's just never been a good time for me to pick it up. This feels like either a March or November book, and so that is when I'm going to try to read this, and if I don't read it in those months, I'm not reading it this year. Next I have 1984 by George Orwell. This is another one of his like biggest like dystopian type books. I've only read Animal Farm by George Orwell. I was not assigned any of his works in high school, and I don't think it was because they were banned, but I really don't know for sure. And I was hoping to read 1984 like a couple months later last year, but a lot of like books for me last year, I feel like they just came out of nowhere, and like the wanting to read them came out of nowhere. So like a lot of books I wanted to read last year I didn't, and I really had a fantastic reading year last year though. I read 117 books, and so this is dystopian fiction, just critique on society as all dystopian fiction is. And one thing I really like about Orwell's work, at least with Animal Farm, is that it's applicable to really any time you're living in, with how government and propaganda work, and like how rules of society change and adapt and really impact and affect normal citizens and civilians. And so I don't know if I would say it's my most anticipated this year, but it definitely is like probably like top 10 books I'm making sure I'm reading this year. And it's not even that long. I think it's like it's like 300-ish pages. So, and 320 I think, including the afterword, which I definitely always read. I always read introductions and afterwards when it comes to books, especially classics. I think it's really important to read them. Next, I have Outlander. This is obviously the first book in the Outlander series. I think there's 9 books out currently. I don't think that includes novellas, but there's 9 books out. Gabaldon is working on the 10th. I don't know if it's the final book. I don't think she even knows if it's the final book yet or not, or at least that follows, I think, Claire and Jamie. And so I actually started this over the summer last year. I started this in like July, and I only have like 200 pages left of this. I just haven't picked it up because I just haven't been, I don't know if I would say I'm not in the mood for it, but I've had other books that have just been grabbing my attention more, and I know when I get sucked into this, I'm going to want to get back into the whole series. And so I don't have the second book, but I do want to try to finish this sooner than later. This definitely feels like I don't know if it's because I started this in summer, but it definitely feels like a very summery type book to me. It could just be because of when I read it, but I really enjoyed it. Either way, I need to finish this year, because putting off a book that I've started this long is kind of crazy. The next book I want to read is Us in Ruins by Rachel Moore. I think this is her second book. Her first one, I believe, is The Library of Shadows. And whenever that one first was getting published, I really wanted to read it, and I just never bought it. I don't think it was ever at my like local stores, and that's usually where I try to buy my books, and this wasn't there, and so I didn't pick it up. And I could have just ordered it, but I didn't, and I really should have. But I am really excited to read this one. I think the cover is beautiful. I don't really know much about the premise, but I am super excited to read this. I think I'm going to try to read this summer. I have The Umber and the Ashes, which is I think the first of 4 books in this series, which I remember when this first came out, like the first, I think it was like 2015, 2018. I don't remember. I just remember when they first got published, and I always wanted to pick it up, but it just wasn't, I don't know why it wasn't a book I didn't pick up at the time. I wasn't a big fantasy reader like, I liked fantasy, it just wasn't like a genre I really went to, and I felt like this was kind of intimidating and I didn't want to pick it up because I was scared. But anyways, this is a book I need to make sure I read this year, and I started it I think when I first bought it, and I just read the very little bit, but I'm like, I'm going to be obsessed with this. And I had other books on my physical TBR, even though I literally bought this, I was like in the middle of, and so I was focusing on those, and I have not come back to this yet, but I'm going to, I promise. Next, Kiki's Delivery Service. This is the book that inspired the movie, the Studio Ghibli movie, and if you can't tell, I love Studio Ghibli. But anyways, I love Kiki's Delivery Service. It's not my favorite of the films. I don't care if it's basic. I think Howl's Moving Castle is probably one of my favorites. It's probably my, like, I think it's definitely top 3. I think my top 3 are like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, and Castle in the Sky. I really love Castle in the Sky. For a long time, that was honestly probably my second favorite, if not my favorite. I really love all of them though. Like, I love Kiki's Delivery Service, Princess Mononoke. I'm trying to think of all the other ones. When Marnie Was There, that one made me sob like a little girl. This one is not by Miyazaki. When Marnie Was There is also not by Miyazaki, but The Tale of Princess Kaguya, that movie was my favorite movie of all time for a really long time. I can't remember the director who made it, but I really recommend you watch it. The art is so beautiful, the story is so beautiful. If you like Studio Ghibli, I definitely recommend watching that one. I'm a huge avid fan of Studio Ghibli, and I did not know this was a book, and when I saw that it was a book, I bought it. And because I wasn't going to, but then I saw the sprayed edges of this, and I told myself I had to, because that is so beautiful, and I'd be so upset if I didn't get this with those little sprayed edges, because if you don't know, it's Kiki and Gigi, and so like that's Gigi and that's Kiki, and so I think it's beautiful, and I'm really excited to read this. Last book. This has been on so many TBRs, and I've been doing so many TBR videos lately, so I'm really sorry if you're sick of them. But Shadow and Claw by Gene Wolfe, this is one that got recommended, that I bought like immediately after I got recommended it, because I was intrigued when I was looking into it about what it was, because I didn't know. And so this is technically, I think, a fantasy book, but people say that it's more so science fiction, if I remember right. And it's, or maybe it's the other way around, because I'm seeing science fiction written on here. For some reason, I thought that this was, I can't remember, one of them was classified as the other, and I saw a lot of people saying that it is more so one genre than the other, and so I'm really excited to read this though. I was looking on Reddit and seeing a lot of what people had to say on there, and so don't take everything from Reddit, I would say, but I really was intrigued by what people were saying and like their dissections of this book. And so I'm really excited to read it. I don't know when I'm going to, but I think when I do, I'm probably going to try to make like a full video on this or the series. So I am excited because I think it's fun. I miss being in school and writing papers on books a lot. If you don't know, I went to school for English. I didn't go for language and literature, but I went for professional writing. But I obviously did a lot of reading during that. So I am very excited to read this, and I kind of want to try to do like video essays about books because I really miss that type of content, or making things that are about books in like that type of way, I guess. I don't know. So that is my entire annual TBR. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that whatever your reading goal is, please let me know, because I would like to know how many books you want to read this year, and like your high priority books, because like these are my high priority books. So let me know what you guys are reading this year, because I'm always intrigued to see what people are choosing to read in their spare time, or what they make time to read. And so if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I just thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, every single one of you. And so thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful life, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!